Welcome to another BTL Exclusive, where we're going to talk about the MLB World Series starting up here in a couple of days. You're joined by your host, Krabs and Jovan. We are excited to talk some baseball. I didn't hear no bell. We've still got one more Elite Series coming up here, Jovan, between two of the best teams in the history of the sport, Dodgers and Yankees. I know you're excited about it. You love rooting for these teams and betting on them. Where's your head heading into the World Series here?
I love this series. I definitely don't like these teams, and it's going to suck seeing one of them lift the trophy. But for the sport of baseball, this is a pretty cool World Series to have. I am sick of the Dodgers Yankees World Series dreams that we get every year. Every year we have the same cycle from all the fans. So is this year finally going to get Dodgers Yankees? So I'm happy we at least get to stop that little loop, and it's going to be a good series. A lot of goats.
Too many goats, in my opinion, but I digress. What if I told you in a season where we didn't have a 100-win team in the regular season, which for the first time in over 10 years happens? Typically, there's a couple wagons, a couple teams in the regular season that get 100 wins and they dominate. This year, there wasn't that case where there was a dominant team during the regular season. So, of course, the two best teams make it to the World Series because baseball is the weirdest sport of all time. In a year where we expected chaos, we expected maybe the worst teams like the Tigers, to maybe make a run here. No fucking chance. Or the Guardians. When have they ever done anything? What are we thinking? There's no way they're advancing. It was always the Yankees and the Dodgers. But this might surprise some people because, we obviously know the Yankees have 27 World Series, but the majority of those were, when the milkman was dropping off milk to Babe Ruth and then he was hitting a home run against them that night, right? A lot of those World Series don't really count. They were a long time ago. But this is the first time in 4 decades, Jovan, that we're seeing these two teams face off in the World Series. Considering how good they are and how high their payrolls are, isn't that a little bit surprising?
I don't think it's that surprising because I'll stand on what we did or what we said, or I said at least at the beginning of the season when we were doing these pods. The worst thing to happen to baseball was the Texas Rangers winning the World Series last year, because if you thought it was pay to play before then, it's 50 times that now, which is why the Dodgers just went and spent $1 billion. The Yankees just did the same exact thing, headlined by Juan Soto. So that's pretty much the state of baseball right now. The Rangers, I think, ruined it for everybody. So we're probably going to see a lot more spending in the offseason. And first season after that, not surprised to see the goats in here at all. But again, kind of glad it's happening finally. I'd rather it be the two goats matching up than bug versus windshield. Like if it were Yankees, Mets, the Mets Magic, I think we can all agree kind of ran out at that point. So the Yankees would get a even easier path than they already had. Same thing again. I don't want a repeat of Dodgers Rays, respectfully, because it would be the same thing with the Guardians, where there would just be no shot, not an interesting series.
Well, I had a couple futures in the NL for two teams, two slept-on squads, at least one slept-on squad, and then another squad that turned out to be the most popular future of all time out of nowhere, the Padres, and then, of course, the Mets, the team I was talking about that nobody thought had a chance and made it the furthest out of any of the random teams. Hilarious how baseball works. It always fucking does. It's always the opposite of what should happen, and that's why we love it so much. But both those teams, Jovan, ran out of steam. The Padres became the favorite in a season where they finally had the Dodgers number. Of course, the Padres blow it, and when nobody expected the Dodgers to make it to the World Series, of course they do. When people are calling out Dave Roberts saying, he's about to lose his job if they don't make it to the World Series, I've never seen a manager look more calm during a playoff run. The guy's literally telling the media, the broadcasters, what he's about to do the next inning. He doesn't give a shit. You know how comfortable you got to be and how confident you got to be in your squad to be telling the people, the broadcasters, what you're about to do next inning? I've never seen something like that in my life during an MLB broadcast. Dave Roberts is locked in. He's feeling comfortable about his squad. And, of course, in a year where nobody thinks the Dodgers could do it, they make it here when they don't have the best pitching. But we're going to talk about that pitching here in a little bit. Before we do, guys, I want to make sure you guys are all following us on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you guys are tapped in. There should be some more of these podcasts dropping over the next couple of weeks with college basketball starting up. When we get into the heat of NFL and college football playoffs in a couple months, we're going to have plenty of pods coming out here soon. So drop a follow. Make sure you guys are tapped into the Bookit Sports Podcast Network, and make sure you guys have notice turned on. Please. Okay. Couple factoids here about the World Series before we dive in and get Jovan's thoughts on who he thinks is winning this puppy. The AL has won the last 2 World Series, but the NL won the last 3 before that, including when my Nats were involved in that. And by the way, one of the only random teams to be able to actually finish the fight and pull off the miracle. We saw how tough that is with the Mets when they ran out of magic. It's not easy to pull off a crazy upsets in the World Series, man. It is not. But this year, of course, we've got two heavyweights. And like I said earlier, the Yankees and the Dodgers, they haven't faced off in a World Series in 4 decades. The Yankees haven't won a World Series since 2009, which is a long time for the Yankees, right? Some people are saying maybe they're a little bit cursed right now. I don't know, but it's been a while, over 15 years since they've won a World Series. And that was when Girardi and co. beat the Phillies a little while back. The Dodgers, on the other hand, unfortunately for Jovan, he remembers this one like it was yesterday probably. The Dodgers won it last in 2020 against his Rays. So a little bit more frequent of a win for the Dodgers, but we know the Yankees' history in the postseason. They've got the most rings. Does any of that shit matter?
I wouldn't say so. Coming into this matchup, it's just who's going to perform at the best time. It's like I remember that Dodgers series, of course, against the Rays, like the back of my hand. And I'll tell you from the start, it never felt like they had a shot because the Rays were playing amazing baseball. But at the end of the day, once you get to the end, they were just so outmatched talent-wise. They never really could hold up. The bats couldn't hold up. So we'll see what bats come to play. And I'll say coming into this series, I mean, the Dodgers bats have looked, I would say, a little better and more consistent than the Yankees, but maybe the Yankees have some other edges.
We'll talk about some of those edges. We'll talk about projected pitching, not only starting, but bullpen for both teams. We'll see who has an edge there. We'll talk about game 1 as well on Friday night. We've already got some odds out for that. A little bit of a high total, if I could say so myself, in a game involving Garrett Cole. We're going to talk about it. Hold that thought. We're going to talk about series predictions as well. I'm going to ask Jovan straight up, cut the shit, who's winning the fucking World Series, and tell me where to put my coins. We're going to talk about it. Stick with us. And then there's a bunch of these crazy series props that I'm seeing, Jovan, up on the books. Not going to name drop, not going to give any free ads here, but some really cool props and some cheeky props and futures here for the World Series that I want to ask you about. Maybe have some fun, lock in some fun bets, but also let's make some coins here and let's know who we are and find some sharp winners as well. We'll also talk about the World Series MVP and the odds for that too. I'm sure people would love to lock in a future for that. Cool award in baseball. Really one of the only sports where the MVP doesn't have to be the GOAT, the QB, the star, right? You could see Rando McGee's winning the MVP in the World Series. We'll talk about that as well. But for now, why don't we start with the pitching? Okay, you already mentioned the lineups a little bit and talked about them, but I want to talk about pitching because pitching is king. Okay, pitching wins championships. Trust me, I know. 2019. Pitching wins championships. Okay? Dodgers right now have a 3-man rotation. Jack Flaherty, Walker Buehler, and Yamamoto. Good fucking luck with that. Good luck with that. Now, their bullpen, they might make up for it. And right now, Jovan, their bullpen is on a legacy stretch. My goodness. They got Blake Trinan, who might be the greatest relief pitcher I've ever seen in my life since Mariano Rivera. Not even kidding. Maybe a little bit of an overreaction. I don't know. Maybe some recency bias. He's also a former Nat. But is there anybody who's been better in the postseason than Blake Trinan in our lifetime? Probably not, to be completely honest with you. Michael Kopech. They got Phillips. They got Hudson, who even hasn't been at his best, but he's good enough. They got plenty of bodies in that bullpen. They got Joe Kelly, Michael Grove. They got Honeywell. They got Banda, the lefty. Brazier. They got Landon Knack if they need some innings, right? The Dodgers might not have the advantage with the starting pitchers, Jovan, but they certainly do with the bullpen. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. Yeah, coming into this, the Dodgers bullpen has been absolutely lights out. And the Yankees bullpen hasn't been terrible at all in the playoffs. It's just the Dodgers has been so good, and I kind of want to give them credit, but at the same time say maybe that was because the Padres and Mets bats were starting to flame out a little bit, but it's probably somewhere in the middle. But yeah, their bullpen's been absolutely ridiculous this playoff run.
Do we think it's going to be that 3-headed monster for the Dodgers starters? Flaherty, Buehler, Yamamoto, and then maybe a bullpen game in there?
Has to be. I don't think they have any other options.
Yeah. I mean, unless they want to give Landon Knack a shot, which I doubt it. I think there's a better chance we see him coming out of the bullpen, right? Maybe eat up some innings in the one game where the Yankees pull out an early lead and maybe they just call it. I could see one game like that, right? But you're probably right. They probably go with a bullpen game in that 4th slot. Then you look at the Yankees. I mean, in my opinion, I think they have a significant advantage here with the starting pitchers, maybe not with the bullpen, but their bullpen, like Jovan said, has been pretty solid as well. Maybe not as solid and elite or as historic as the Dodgers bullpen has been. I mean, unbelievable run from them. But let's start with the Yankees and their starting rotation here. They've got Garrett Cole, they've got Rodon, they've got Clark Schmidt, who I think is extremely underrated. And same with Luis Hill. If his arm can stay on his body, I think he's extremely underrated. We'll see how many innings he has left in the tank, but we know what's good with Luis Hill at this point. when he's healthy, when he's got gas in the tank, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball, but that's a big if, right? And we're about to find out how much gas he has left in the tank. Then you look at their bullpen. I mean, they've been unbelievable. They've been great, besides, a couple blips on the radar from Luke Weaver the other night, giving up some runs late. Clay Holmes obviously lost his starting job, as the closer, but it's been pretty solid in the bullpen since. They got Canely. They got Tim Hill, who's been a really solid lefty for them as well. They got Jake Cousins, Kirk Cousins' cousin. Can't make it up. That guy's on the fucking Yankees now, and he's been a stud. You got Nasty Nestor, who might potentially be on the World Series roster. Would love to hear Javon's thoughts if he thinks Nasty Nestor is going to have an impact on this World Series, along with guys like Stroman and Leiter Jr., who we could maybe see out of the bullpen for the Yankees as well. But they got bodies, man. Plenty of them.
They do. And it's like I'll say this. I think there are plenty of questions for what that rotation is outside of Garrett Cole. The thing is, like, when I look at that rotation, there's upside with, I think, everybody that they could turn to, and they have so many more options. The Dodgers, like, the thing with the starting rotations about this series, it feels like if the Dodgers don't win the Yamamoto and Flaherty starts, they're cooked. Because, like, what else are they going to do? Like, I'm not saying they can't win a bullpen game, but if you get a good start from Garrett Cole in this game one going up against Flaherty, there's a lot of pressure for you to make up that ground with a pitching staff that, frankly, is not built to do that right now. So, like, Rodon has been okay. Luis Hill has been okay. Like, Clark Schmidt, I think, sneakily could be the X factor in all of this because out of the three guys there, Rodon, Gil, and him, he's the only one that keeps the ball on the ground at a pretty large clip. So, like, against the Dodgers team that hits a lot of fly balls, a lot of home runs, he's probably going to have to be the guy to be pretty effective. And maybe they bring Stroman in the mix too. We'll see if that ends up happening. But Clark Schmidt, I think, is a big X factor for the Yankees. It's just when I look at the rotation and look at the bullpen, I feel like the rotation advantage kind of makes up for the bullpen because they have so many more guys that can eat innings and give you quality starts. I guess not technically because some of the times they'll fall short of 5 innings, but they'll give you quality innings. And I think that's the difference.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think Nestor's going to be the X factor if he's available. They're making it seem like he will. It could be a bluff. I guess we'll see on Friday, right? Once his rosters officially get released. But if they can get Nestor to come out of that bullpen, even just one time, right? When they need to stop the bleeding and they need to put a bandage on a starting pitcher who did not have his best stuff in the 4th or 5th inning. And they needed a guy to go in there and shut down a couple of the lefties in that Dodgers lineup. I think Nestor is make or break for the Yankees World Series chances. Look back in history, out of all the teams who have been the underdog or the teams who have had a disadvantage, what is the only way they win the fucking World Series? Pitching. It's the only way.
Are you yeah.
Mainly having a fucking starter coming out of your bullpen when you need to stop the bleeding at times, like a Patrick Corbin or like a guy, I don't know, I can't think on the top of my head, but there's been scenarios in years past when you see a guy like Clayton Kershaw coming out of the pen for the Dodgers, when you need a veteran arm to go in there and stop the bleeding for a couple innings, having a guy like Nestor to shut down a couple of the lefties in that Dodgers lineup could be pivotal. That could be everything. We'll see if that cortisone shot worked. We'll see if he's up and moving, but Nasty Nestor could be the difference. If not, maybe Marcus Stroman, but I don't know if I trust that guy when the lights are brightest. Nasty Nestor, though, against some of those lefties in the Dodgers lineup, I feel like that could be make or break for the Yankees here.
I'm not incredibly tapped into what they may or may not do, but I mean, I would assume that that roster is going to end up being one or the other between Nestor and Marcus Stroman. And I guess for handedness sake, it would make sense to have Nestor in there, being that you would have to face Ohtani and Freddie Freeman, even though he's a little banged up as part of it. I don't know. I just, if Marcus Stroman's in the fold, I kind of would like that. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest Marcus Stroman guy, but just like we talked about with Clark Schmidt, I think a sinker baller is a huge asset. So I wonder what they're going to end up doing, because I feel like regardless of if it's Stroman or Nestor, I mean, that's a really good tool to have out of the pen for innings at your disposal, regardless of whether you're doing it for a lefty-lefty matchup or just a guy that can get you quality innings. Maybe if like Rodon comes out and doesn't have his best stuff, but they're still in the game, you bring out Stroman of the pen, which is a vastly different look, or, you know, vice versa. Like Clark Schmidt doesn't have his stuff, then they bring Nestor out to face the top of the lineup. Like, it's a pretty good weapon to have. The Dodgers have a lot of weapons in the back end with Trinan and Kopech and Evan Phillips, but guys that can get you through, I don't know, a tough like third, fourth, fifth inning with your starter coming out and not having your best stuff. It feels like the Dodgers don't have that luxury to go to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear the Dodgers have the bullpen advantage in this series, right? But the Yankees have the starting pitching advantage, and I'm counting guys like Nestor or Stroman, whoever ends up making that final roster, guys who are going to be coming out of the bullpen but have been starters for this team. I'm including them in that argument. I think it's night and day. The Yankees have significant starting pitching advantage, which could prove pivotal and be the difference, to be completely honest with you, in this series, depending on how many runs are scored. And the Dodgers, they have the bullpen advantage. I mean, these guys are on a historic run, but how long can they keep that up for? And when the lights are at their brightest in the World Series, in probably the most popular, most watched, most talked about World Series, highest anticipated World Series between two wagons, two historic programs, two historic organizations starving for another championship, I don't know if that Dodgers bullpen will be as good as they've been. And I don't know if the Yankees starting rotation will be as good as they've been. Some of these young guys like Schmidt and Hill, who knows? That's why we fucking love this shit, right? But there's a couple cheeky props we're going to talk about with these series coming up here about, the amount of runs in these games or crazy stuff we expect to happen. I'm very excited, Jovan. I'll gatekeep this for now, but I'm excited to run through some of those with you and see where your head's at. Okay, because this could be a crazy series. A lot of star power. But let's not forget about the pitchers, right? Everybody's talking about Shohei. They're talking about Mookie. They're talking about Freddie. They're talking about Aaron Judge, Juan Soto. Sure. Let's not forget about the pitchers. We got some stud arms on both these teams, and pitching wins championships. Okay, we forget about that when we see a 500-foot home run off the bat of Aaron Judge that sounds like there was a fucking bomb detonated and he's just hitting a baseball. We forget about that. But pitching wins championships. And I wouldn't be surprised if Nestor Cortez, maybe Stroman, who knows, ends up being a key factor for this Yankees team out of the bullpen. Could be. All right, so it's pretty clear that Dodgers had the bullpen advantage and the Yankees had the starting advantage there. You agree with that?
Yeah, 100%.
Lineup-wise, real quick, who would you give the edge to right now?
I mean, I would have to give the edge to the Dodgers. What the Dodgers have done from a hitting perspective and an offensive perspective in those two series against the Padres and the Mets, like their bullpen and their pitching staff was fantastic. It didn't matter. Like they could have come out and shit the bed, which they did a couple of games, and it didn't matter because they just outslugged both teams. Like, Teoscar even like was slumping a little bit in the Mets series, but like in the Padres series, he had some timely hits, and he got them, I guess, when they needed in the Mets series too. Like Mookie is back for what reason, I don't know. Ohtani's on a legacy streak. Like there's no holes in that lineup. You got Tommy Edman in the back end of the lineup looking like Barry Bonds. And Will Smith even had a home run in the clinching game against the Mets series. I mean, they're clicking on all cylinders, and the Yankees really didn't have to be all that good, but I mean, they were good enough. Like Stanton had a great game, great series against the Guardians. Timely hits. That's when the guy shows up. Soto's been good. Judge has been all right. Like, it's not really like either the offense has been bad. It's just the Dodgers have been unbelievable.
I mean, they're leading the postseason in runs scored per game. It's not even really close. It was them and the Mets, and they overtook the Mets when they were putting up, double digits against New York when it was nothing, right? It was absolutely absurd watching those games play out against the Mets. Just an absolute wagon the Dodgers have been so far. It'd be a shame if they end up blowing it once they get into the World Series. If you guys can tell where my head is residing at with this series. And we're going to talk about the price here in a moment. Before we do, I want to go over game one and gatekeep here for just a little bit longer to keep you guys hanging on, listening before we go over our World Series predictions, who we think is going to win this puppy. Let's talk about game one. Okay, Friday night, high total, 8.5. Dodgers are home. They're minus 125. Favorites against the Yankees. Favorites against the former Cy Young winner, Garrett Cole. They've got Flaherty on the bump, who's been sketchy. Looks like the odds have moved, 5 to 10 cents towards the Yankees, who opened up bigger dogs than they are right now. So that's a good sign for New York. Jovan, where's your head at for game one?
My head is certainly with the Yankees and Garrett Cole. It's really hard to trust Jack Flaherty, I would say. And I think everybody is probably going to be in that same headspace after watching his last start against the Mets. That was pitiful. I think he went 3 innings, he had 8 runs, 4 walks, could not throw a strike to save his life. Yes, they left him out there for a little bit just because the pitching situation kind of called for that. They couldn't afford to turn to an arm any earlier than they already did, but he was bad. And that's not to take away credit from what he's done, the other couple starts in the postseason, because he's been solid before that. But that was a concerning start for me, especially when you're going to have your command extremely sharp, especially against the top part of that Yankees lineup. So I'm not going to say he's going to be that bad, but it's hard to trust him. And Garrett Cole has been relatively nails throughout the postseason. He had a couple blips against the Royals in that first start, but other than that, he followed it up with a gem against them. He was pretty solid against the Guardians, struggled a little bit with command, but he was getting squeezed a little bit, still came out only giving up 2. So I like Garrett Cole, not literally, but in this matchup. So I think he's going to do right. Set them up with success early.
And Garrett Cole has actually grown on me a little bit as a person and as a player. That guy's a dog. He's a nutcase. He's a lunatic. He's a pitcher. Pitchers are freaks. We know that. We grew up playing baseball. Those guys are weird as shit. But he's a good teammate. Like when I watched him walk off the mound and chase after the guy who was talking shit on the base paths last series, I mean, that was awesome to watch. Garrett Cole just being a freak, not even saying anything, just staring him down, chasing him around the bases. Super weird. Like he was Michael Myers.
I'm not the biggest Garrett Cole fan still, but it just
he's grown on me. He's grown on me.
Yeah, I don't hate him, and like really on the Yankees team, I really don't hate anybody, which is rare. Like I'm so used to looking at the Yankees team and having like a Brett Gardner or something that I'm just like, I can't see him put a ring on his finger because
or Josh Donaldson. He's just a bad
Josh Donaldson, yeah,
just a bad guy.
Even like not
CC like pitchers,
bad guy, but like
pitchers who have some bad legal issues. Not CC. CC's a good dude overall, but
Severino.
You know what I'm talking about.
CC was just or not Severino, Domingo Germán, but
Germán.
CC Sabathia was like, if you were an AL East fan, you hate CC Sabathia. AL East fan of not the Yankees. It's like he's not.
I mean, obviously, he took your lunch money for a decade. Sure.
Yeah, he's also just the biggest shit talker of all time, dude. Even when he lost, like you're like anytime the Rays and the Yankees were beefing, it was always because of CC Sabathia. It's like we're not CC's fans, but like overall, in the Yankees, like, am I going to hate Soto? No. Like I don't care for Judge, but it's not really his fault.
You can make an argument. You can make an argument for both those gents that you just mentioned. You could.
You want to make an argument for Soto, Krabs?
You could make an argument. I wouldn't, but you could.
I just don't know. Dude. I'll
tell you what,
I'm rooting for a lot of like the other guys too. Like I would love to see Verdugo get a ring. I like that guy a lot. I like Anthony Volpe's like a homegrown guy for them who's kind of been through it. You know, they gave him a lot of shit early in his career and starting to put it together a little bit. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I mean, the pitching staff too. Reds legend Luke Weaver in the pen who's been through the ringer. That would be a hell of a redemption story. Like it's probably the least hateable Yankees team in some time.
I can make a pretty good argument about hating some of these guys. And I can't believe you just said Alex Verdugo. You like that guy?
I like Verdugo. Yeah.
You're standing on that? You like that guy's attitude and the way he acts on the field?
Yeah.
Bro.
You don't like
that
Alex
dude
Verdugo.
Is annoying as shit. And he's also a Red Sox. He should not be a Yankee. Doesn't feel right.
I can agree with that.
He's not buttoned up enough. It's fake. It's like fucking pig with makeup on. Makes no sense. Not real.
He's one of the nicest guys off the field. I've heard that from everybody.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes me like him more, but he acts like the biggest tool bag of all time on the field. He does. All right. Well, we could talk about hating the Yankee players all fucking podcast and all day. I'm sure people would love listening to that, but let's reel it back in here. Let's reel it back in. I do see where your head's at, and I agree with that argument. There's a couple guys in this Yankees team that are hard to hate, like Juan Soto, and that might just be it, but at least one they have. Let's talk about this game one matchup, Jovan, because I'm on the same page as you. If it's not clear already, all jokes aside and all roasting aside, I do like the Yankees in this game. I like them moving from plus 112 to plus 105. I like them being, the sharp sides on the road with the former Cy Young pitcher that's given up a couple hits and runs recently. Hasn't really been his best, but he's been better than he was in the beginning of the season when he was more hurt and giving up some, serious bad starts. In this case, we've got Flaherty who we're fading, which I like. But what I'm worried about, Jovan, is the prize picks board. I'm worried about the prize picks board and two squares in particular that are up for these two starting pitchers. They both have 2.5 earned run squares up on the board. And they both look like the exact opposite of what I'd want to see as a Yankee bettor. And I'm shaking in my boots just looking at these puppies. You've got Garrett Cole up for 2.5 earned runs allowed. Only gone more than one time in his last 5. Extremely red. And then you've got Jack Flaherty, who, by the way, we know sucked in his last start. Gave up 8 runs. Barely even could stay in the game. extremely green chart at 2.5 that looks like the freest more than of all time. So it's probably going less than. This shit's worrying me. It is. So talk me off the ledge here with these two squares or make it seem more normal because I can't find a reason to.
You know how I think there's an avenue to Jack Flaherty going less than that 2.5 grabs? I think, which again, partially like last start, they let him ride for a little bit through that 3 innings because they really had to, and they were still in a position to win the series after that. But I think they're going to learn their lesson from that. Like if the off speed is not sharp like it was in that last start where he got blown up, they ain't letting him get through that lineup really as many times as you would think. So I think the leash on him is going to be a little short, which is another one of the reasons why like I am a little scared of that Dodgers rotation. So like I think he could have a rough start and still give up 2, and then he only gets through 3. And I think there's a way that happens. Garrett Cole, I think he'll give up a couple though too. I feel like this total was at 8.5. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I feel like that's an awfully high total in terms of what we usually see in World Series Game 1 because it's usually the aces of both teams, which, like I guess
Flaherty throws a wrench into that, but yes.
Yeah, Flaherty kind of throws a wrench into that. I guess their best pitcher right now is Yamamoto, I would say, but it's probably not all by that much. It's
probably Bueller, honestly.
Yeah, it could be by the end of the series. Who knows? But
he's got ice in his veins. I'll give him that. Been new shit in
the
regular season dealing with injuries, but he's been good.
This should be an entertaining game 1. I will say that. I don't think this game is – this is not your classic Mon Paz 2-1 World Series game 1.
Yep. I'm with you. And if you can't pick up what we're putting down here to all of our listeners, we obviously like the over in this game. Total's at 8.5. The under was juicy as heck when it first opened, around -120 to -125 at that 8.5 number. Now we're seeing that total at 8.5 with -112 towards the under, -108 towards the over, or -110 both sides. So it's pretty much evened out, aka the juice is moving towards the over, which is pretty fucking weird when I'm looking at the splits right now. Sure, it's public, but not more public than an over typically would be. This is a high total involving Garrett Cole, former Cy Young winner. I don't care how good the offenses are. I don't care how many MVPs there are in the fucking lineups. This is still postseason baseball. Pitching dominates. Pitching wins. But not in game 1. Look at this total moving up. 8.5. We might see a 9 total by Friday. Are you kidding me? A 9 total involving Garrett Cole? Picture that. You're nuking the over.
Crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah. High total. And I know Jack Flaherty hasn't been good, so I don't think he'll be good in this start. But that 2.5 run square that's up on Prize Picks, it's extremely green after he gave up 8 against the Mets in his last start. Jovan, he was terrible. That's kind of sketchy. I'm hoping our saving grace is that, yes, the Dodgers pull him early as shit. They go to their bullpen at the first inkling of trouble because they can, and their bullpen's been that elite. They can afford that right now. Maybe they pull him early as heck. That's the only way I can see us getting out of this, though, but I'm sketched.
I'll say this, too, because I wanted to look and see. Game 1 of the World Series last year between the Rangers and D-backs was Eovaldi and Gallen. That total was a juicy 8, but still an 8. I think I see 8.5 up here. That game had 11 runs. So the fact that we're seeing an 8.5 now, maybe you can argue it's because there's better offenses in the fold, sure, but it feels awfully telling.
Yeah. Garrett Cole's involved. High total. 100%. Well, TBD if I'll get to the counter with that over. It's still taking an over in a standalone game, which I still go back to and I hate, but it's definitely not the under. Certainly not. And if we see that total touch 9, I might have to get involved.
Yeah, if I see a 9, I'm getting involved. But otherwise, probably just taking the Yankees.
Okay. Yankees is a side, plus 105 as of right now, the time we're recording this podcast, Wednesday night. We'll see where those odds are at, come first pitch on Friday. If I had to guess, we are seeing some early Yankees money. A little bit public on the ML. I mean, guys, it's still the Yankees, but it's against the Dodgers, who are the second most public team of all time as well. So kind of tough to read what makes sense and what's happening, but I'm not surprised to see the Yankees a little bit public right now. And also early money is typically smarter money, and it's only Wednesday. We're 2 days out the time of recording this puppy. So I wouldn't be shocked by the time, Friday night comes around, we see the Dodgers a little bit more public, and maybe we see that ML start to creep back towards LA once they start to get more money towards first pitch on the day of the game. If I had to guess, I bet the Dodgers would be minus 130, maybe even minus 135 by Friday night. If they're not, then I'm completely off with this read. But do not be scared off. If you see the Dodgers at minus 135, even after you've heard this podcast, it's still got to be the Yankees on the ML. And I think we'll get some late money on the Dodgers at home. Late money, typically dumber money, respectfully. Early money, typically smarter. Not the worst sign seeing the Yankees be a little public right now, but we'll see what happens come Friday night. All right? Dubs. Well, you think the Yankees still game one on the road here, Jovan? Do you think the Yankees win the goddamn World Series? As much as I hate to say it.
I do. I do. And I hate to say it, probably close to as much as you would hate to say it. But
you don't, but
I do. Trust me.
You pretend.
You hate the Yankees, and I hate the Yankees, and at least your team doesn't have to play them and deal with it for an entire season, because that's the one thing the Rays fan base has had over the Yankees, because we've sniffed the World Series and sniffed success a lot more than they have since like their last ring.
I know, it's awesome.
Yeah, I know it's awesome, but now they're probably going to have this, which sucks. But
yeah, it does suck.
I do think they win, but
it's a lose-lose, man. As a contrarian, as a guy who likes to fade the public, as a guy who, some people might say hates fun when it comes to betting or stuff that makes sense. I mean, I just cannot stand goats. I can't stand backing them. I like backing the blue-collar role players, right? That's the kind of guy I am. And I don't like backing guys like Judge. I don't like backing guys like Shohei. I don't like this World Series, but we're here. We don't have a fucking choice other than to make some coins and bet it, right? It's got to be the Yankees. As much as I hate to fucking say it, man. It's been too long. 14 or 15 years. I remember when I was in college, and I've told people this all the time, but went to Virginia Tech. A lot of people from the New York, Jersey area go to Virginia Tech. I don't know why, but they do. And I went to school with a lot of Yankee fans, and I gave them so much shit, not only during the Nats run, when we somehow got a World Series before they do in our lifetime, but I gave them so much shit for folding year in and year out and doing stupid shit in the offseason, bringing in veterans that they shouldn't be bringing in, overpaying them, not trying to build up your own team like the fucking Rays do when they find success doing it the hard way, right? But we've gotten to a point, Jovan, where the Yankees are so due. We know it's coming at some point. It could be this fucking time. And I said it before the season, and I'll say it again. You add a guy like Juan Soto to your team, a winner, plain and simple, a guy who wins. He wins at life. He wins at the plate. He wins mentally against the pitcher. He wins physically. He's in great shape. The guy's fucking locked in. He wins at everything he does. Juan Soto, when he talks in a room, everybody shuts up and listens and looks at that guy. He's got more aura than anybody else in the fucking Dodgers or Yankees combined. You add a guy like Juan Soto, a winner to the fold, anything could happen. And curses could be broken. And the Yankees could be more than due. They might just win this fucking thing at plus money. So right now the Yankees, I know we talked about them at plus 105 in this game one. They're also plus 105 to win the World Series, Jovan. The Dodgers minus 125. So the same odds we're seeing for game one, the same odds we're seeing to win the series. Not really surprised by that, right? Those do kind of correlate here. And you're sticking with the Yanks, and you think they're due. You're with me here.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It sucks. I mean, look, Dave Roberts, his work here is done probably. He's probably not going to get fired now that he got this team to the World Series when nobody expected it, right? So he's chilling now. Maybe he gets a little fat, happy, complacent, and we see Juan Soto, a winner, finally carry the Yankees to do something cool and meaningful for the first time in my lifetime that I could remember. They're so dope. This year could be the fucking year. Oh,
might be, dude.
Gross. Let me run you through a couple of these other series predictions or series prop bets. Here's one that I liked. How about a series total games over 6.5 at plus 195, aka this series to go 7 games at plus 195. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's hard to say confidently that this series will not see a game 7. If this series does see a game 7, that is going to be maybe the most watched game in baseball history. It would have
probably.
I mean, that would literally, the world would stop spinning and every single eye would be on this game, which would be awesome. Again, it's great for the game, and it's going to be crazy if that happens. And
I'll have to hit up a loan shark to take out a loan and nuke that under.
Yeah,
all my coins back.
100%. My one worry about this, I guess, would be Not that I think the Yankees are like going to dominate this much, but if the pitching falls apart for the Dodgers too quickly, and by that I mean if we get a mediocre start from Flaherty and he can't make it through the game, so the bullpen gets used early, and then what if Yamamoto doesn't have the greatest start and then they have to go to the bullpen again in game 2? It's a lot of arms, a lot of tired arms that they're going to have very quickly in that series. So I do see an avenue. If the Dodgers win, I think it's going to have to be a series that goes 7 games. I think they'll trade blows, for the entirety of the series, probably with their bats. But the Yankees win, there is an avenue for it to be maybe in 6. But I do think we see game 7. I would be down to get in that with you.
Let me take this bet one step further. How about series correct score? Yankees to win this series 4-3 at plus 475, the second shortest odds out of any combination to win the series.
Wow. You could be in your bag.
I think the Yankees win this World Series. I think it goes 7. I think we are blessed with an unbelievable viewing experience. Maybe not with a ton of runs, and we'll talk about that in a moment here, but I do think we get some really competitive games, some really good games. You see some GOATs show up at times. You see some role players show up in others, right? That's how the World Series goes. You're only as good as your weakest link, plain and simple. We don't win a World Series unless Michael A. Taylor makes that diving catch in center field, our backup center fielder that year, plain and simple. You're only as good as your weakest link. You will see Rando McGee's step up and win games for their teams in this World Series. It's not just going to be Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts. It's not how baseball works. That's why we love this shit so much. And we'll talk about World Series MVP futures here in a moment, but I'm really digging that Yankees 4-3 series correct score at plus 475, and I think it's a great sign that it's the second shortest odds out of any combination there.
I agree. I'm in on that.
Well, I got a couple other cheeky series props that I was going through the books. No free ads, not shouting them out, not telling you guys where to bet them. You got to look yourselves. Sorry, but I want to give Jovan a couple of these props that I found that are pretty cool. Some of these are fun. Some of these could be realistic ways to make some coins, but I feel like you guys will enjoy us going over some of these props, and you could probably learn a thing or two while we're going over our reasons why here. Why don't we start out with any extra inning game in the World Series? It is minus 120.
Yeah.
I don't see how you don't take that, to be completely honest with you. With how good the bullpens have been and how sketchy, in my opinion, the Yankees bullpen is, I feel like we're due for a blown save on either side. Dodgers bullpen has been historically good. In my opinion, they're due for a, fuck up, a home run to tie a game up, take it to extra innings at one point. You can make the same argument for the Yankees overall this season that have overproduced in their bullpen. And you're starting to see guys like Weaver give up some runs. Maybe they do the same shit. I feel like minus 120. Maybe it's square, but I like that bet. I think we see a game go to extras, at least one. I do.
I can totally.
You could take that. You could take the other side of that wager as well. By the way, to all of our listeners, if you want to go find that puppy, go check out the green one. Okay, you could take the other side as well if you want. And then we've got any game in the World Series to end in a walk-off. Now, this one's plus 105, Jovan, so similar angle to that first one, but I guess a little more unrealistic, you could say, because it's plus 105. Are we seeing a walk-off in this World Series?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you have to extra innings, you have to taking a stab at a walk-off to be involved, because obviously that's a 50-50 possibility there, so could be totally down for that.
I definitely like the extra innings wager more than I like the walk-off wager.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
And I also think that's not a hot take. That makes sense. So
yeah, it does.
What about any grand slam in the World Series? This is a prop that I saw up on the books that I was a little bit surprised to see. I thought the odds were a little short, but that's probably because we've seen grand slams in both sides of the bracket in the postseason in baseball so far this year. Kind of weird. And I feel like this might be a trap. This could be bait, but you can bet a grand slam at plus 195. What are your thoughts on that prop bet?
I absolutely think there's going to be a grand slam in this series.
No, you don't.
And you know who I think it's going to be, Krabs? You know who I think it's going to be?
Who?
There is a hot addition in Juan Soto that everybody is talking about being the reason that the Yanks are there. People are forgetting about the other one because he's been a little cold, and I'll chalk that up to the pitching staff that they faced in the Guardians last series. Give me a short porch Jazz Chisholm grand slam in this series in a crucial moment. So I will take that bet, and I'm in.
Wow, I couldn't hate it any more than I do right now. I hate that play's guts. Couldn't disagree more. Couldn't disagree more. Couldn't hate the guy you picked more. Jazz Chisholm, so fucking annoying. Although that guy's proved me wrong. And you wrong as well this season. I think he does move needle for the Yankees. They need more guys like Jazz in that clubhouse that bring the energy. Okay. And aren't just, square by the book, tightened up, wearing suit and ties to the fucking games. They need more character. They need more aura in that fucking locker room. That's why when they added Juan Soto, they finally get to the World Series. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
Okay. You add a little bit more moxie into that clubhouse. Good things happen. Not too much, though. You don't need too much. And you just turn into the Padres. But a little bit you need. And we were wrong about that. We were wrong.
We'll say, too, that the Dodgers, as good as their pitching staff has been in the postseason, the majority of the runs they've given up have been from the long ball. It's like they've had a little bit of an issue with that. Like you think about what happened in both series, like Mark Vientos had a couple home runs. I think Pete had one or two as well. Tatis, of course, had a couple. Machado had some. Higgy, I think, hit one too. So, like, they haven't given up that many runs as a staff as a whole, both the starters and the bullpen, but all the ones you could think about are moonshots. So I would not hate taking stabs at some of those guys that for the Yankees that are maybe like strikeout or home run guys. Not to say Jazz is necessarily that, but he can fit that mold. It's like him and then Stanton, and I guess like obviously Judge can be that at times too. But give me a Jazz grand.
It's literally a Judge all the time. But yep.
Sometimes
it's either a strikeout or a home run.
Sometimes.
This year he's hitting 333. Still trying to figure out. That's got to be a fake stat. It's got to be made up. No way he hit 333 this year. I got to go back and look and count myself. No fucking way.
Well, you gotta factor in how many times he got walked too, Krabs.
That's a good point. He probably doesn't even have any at bats.
Yeah. What's big about this series too, I guess, is who are you gonna pitch to? Because now you have not only like Soto gets the Judge protection, but now Stanton is red hot because he's Stanton in the playoffs now. So like you're gonna have to start throwing to Juan Soto if you're the Dodgers pitching staff. It's kind of a problem.
Well, here's an interesting series prop that kind of correlates with what you're talking a little bit. Most home runs by any player in the World Series. And I'll give you a couple guys and their odds here. Aaron Judge, the favorite, plus 260. Then you got Shohei right behind him at plus 300. Then you got Stanton at plus 320. So all three of those gents, Judge, Shohei, and Stanton, all fairly close to each other. Then you get 50 feet of shit, and then you got Juan Soto plus 800. Big drop off between Stanton and Soto there. Kind of weird. Now, maybe they don't pitch to Soto. I certainly wouldn't pitch to Soto when the lights are bright in the World Series. You kidding me? I've already seen the guy hit nukes when he wasn't even old enough to drink beers and celebrate the World Series that he just won. You've already seen it. You'd have to be a nut job to throw to that fucking guy. Well, then you look at Aaron Judge, and he's having maybe the greatest season in sports history or baseball history, and nobody's fucking talking about it because Shohei's doing similar stuff over there, and he's cool, right? I feel like Aaron Judge, probably too square of a play here. I'm not taking Shohei. I'm not taking Stanton, but I'm a little bit scared by Juan Soto being plus 800. I feel like he should be up there with the big boys, plus 400, plus 350, right? He's getting disrespected here. That tells me that he's still not going to get pitched to in the series. And he probably shouldn't, to be honest. He probably shouldn't.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I'll say that.
You got to pitch the Judge.
You've been giving the Yankees a lot of love. I guess maybe this is the part where the Dodgers come in a little bit. Because I'm trying to think of the situations with the Yankees pitching staff where the long ball has been the biggest problem. Like Carlos Rodon comes to mind, of course. He's had a home run problem all season. He's fixed it a little bit, but it's still there. So, like, I want maybe a lefty killer in there. And obviously, first guy that comes to mind for me is Teoscar, who's sitting there plus 1,200, just outside of the GOATs. So I would not mind him being the guy. He was also a little cold in the series against the Mets for a while. He had a couple of hits in the last clinching game, so maybe that's him starting to see the ball a little bit better. Granted, I mean, he got some favorable matchups, let's say that, because the Mets were very desperate in that game, but I think he might have a big series.
Okay. I could see it. Maybe buy low on Teoscar, who was a little bit cold in that Mets series.
Yeah,
we know he's been red hot the majority of the season, right?
When he was with the Jays, notorious AL East killer. He especially killed the Rays, but he killed everybody in division. So maybe a little return to a familiar face, at least jersey wise. He gets some licks back.
All right, don't let Teoscar get hot, chat. It might be too late.
People forget.
Don't let Teoscar get hot.
People forget my home run derby champion slept on.
Yeah.
Slept on.
Fucking goat. Unbelievable. Don't let Teoscar get hot, listeners. It might be too late. Okay, it might be too late. Although he's been a little bit cold in that Mets series, maybe he shows up and shows out when the lights are brightest against a AL East opponent and the Yankees. I wouldn't mind it. I would not mind it. And we'll talk a little bit about World Series MVP futures here in a second. I got a couple other series props for you, Jovan. Any chance we see a no-hitter in this World Series? You could bet that at plus 7,000.
Yeah, I think that's just take that to the soup kitchen, whatever money you're going to put on that. Because
literally give it out to homeless people on your way to work, because that's a better use of your coins. There's no way in fuck that if they were going to have a no-hitter in this series, which we've already talked about, a weirdly high total in game one involving Garrett Cole, there's no way in fuck that they'd be offering a market for that if they thought there was a realistic chance of a no-hitter being thrown. Use your brains. To all the listeners, you might have just learned something right there. Okay, don't fucking take that prop. That is a donation. You're better off buying a lottery ticket, and I'm so anti-lotto ticket. You're better off buying one.
Well, your anti-lotto ticket.
Yeah, that's the biggest waste of fucking coins. Give me a break.
I mean, I agree. I just didn't see you as an anti-lotto ticket guy.
I know. Look, I'm not a parlay guy either. Maybe the truth comes out there. I just hate fun. I don't.
Yeah.
One more cool series prop here. Let's reel it back in. How about series total runs? Over under 51.5. Minus 110 both ways. AKA 51.5 total runs in this series, depending on how many games we think it'll be. Obviously, if you think it's going 7, you probably lean the over on this bet anyways. We've talked about liking the over in game 1 already. Jovan, I feel like this could be where we see some regression from the Dodgers bullpen as well, who have just been maybe the greatest bullpen in the postseason in the history of the sport. There's got to be regression. They're facing Juan Soto. Come on. There has to be a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like for that to hit, or for me to at least feel very confident about that, I'd have to feel confident about it every single game. Like there's going to be a couple games where the pitching staff set up really, really well and they have good games. So I don't know how I feel about taking the over on that, Krabs. I don't know where your head's at.
Well, I just did some quick math. And if this series does go 7 games, like I am predicting, that is an average of 7.4 runs per game. So let's round that up a little bit to make sure we hit this over. 7.5, 7.5 runs per game. I feel like we're getting that, to be completely honest with you. I think we get a lot of runs in game 1 in general. I think we'll have a couple games in this World Series that are absolute high-scoring blowouts, and probably a couple others that are very low-scoring as well, maybe 1 or 2. But I do think there'll be a couple games in this series, much like the Mets and the Dodgers series, Jovan, where we saw the one team that goes down early to a grand slam or, a crazy crooked number of an inning, kind of just give up, put in their C-team bullpen, call it a day, move on to the next game. I think we're due for 1 or 2 of those. 1 at the minimum. I think 2 is not even asking for that much after what we saw, in recent postseason games and series. We've seen plenty of runs from these offenses. And I think the Dodgers bullpen is due for a little bit of regression. I'm a little bit worried about fading the Yankees rotation, I'll be honest. Been pretty high on them. A little bit worried about that, but look at these offenses. Look at these lineups. I think we could smack this by game 5.
Funny you say game 5, because I was looking at last year's series between the Raiders and D-backs that, of course, only went 5 games. There were 48 runs.
Wow.
That 51.5, that just feels way too easy, Krabs.
Yeah, that might be a trap.
Is it that easy?
It never is.
Especially if I feel like there's not a single soul that thinks this series is ending in 5, because it's not. No. So all we would need.
It's not.
So you just need last year's series plus 4 runs.
All right, I'm out on that bet.
Essentially, that feels like we're gonna get like maybe a 2-1 game in there somewhere. I don't know where it's gonna be, but
might get a couple. To be honest.
Yeah, maybe you get like games. The weird like game 3 first game and Yankee Stadium or something when nobody's expecting it and it's a full bullpen game or something like that.
Okay. Or maybe just Juan Soto hits a home run in every game.
I mean, that's possible. It's possible.
It is.
The lights are bright.
Speaking of Juan Soto and the lights being bright and goats, let's talk about World Series MVP odds. This is a really cool bet. Very different from other sports. MLB might be the only sport where you don't have to be a starting QB. You don't have to be that guy. You don't have to be a GOAT. You don't have to be a big name guy to win an MVP in the World Series. Okay, let's go back and look at the history of this award. There's been Rando McGee's. There's been guys you haven't even fucking heard of that I'm going to list here. There's also been a couple GOATs like Steven Strasburg. But let's look back at the last 10 World Series MVPs, and this will give you a good vibe check of, how all over the place this award can be. It can be given to a role player. It can be given to anybody on the fucking roster, straight up. Madison Bumgarner, Salvi Perez, 2014, 2015, those guys were stars. Ben Zobrist won the next year, though. There's people listening to this podcast who probably won't even know who that is, respectfully. Ben Zobrist, Rays legend, great all-around player, but was that guy a superstar? Fuck no. Come on. He was to Jovan, maybe.
Of course he was.
He was, but to most people, no. George Springer, he was a star, but not even the best player on his team in 2017. Steve Pearce, 2018. I mean, legitimately, people have no clue who that guy is. Steven Strasburg, 2019, probably the biggest GOAT or superstar, I guess you could qualify it for, who's won one of these in the last couple 10-ish years. Corey Seager also, I guess you could consider him a GOAT as well. He's got two on two different teams. Pretty cool. 2020 and 2023. Jorge Soler, another guy who, if I told you Jorge Soler won a World Series MVP, you'd probably look at me like I'm crazy. You wouldn't even remember that, but he did. The guy wasn't even an everyday starter that season when he won the fucking MVP. Jeremy Pena, 2022. That guy's not a superstar. He's a great player, but come on. My point is, to all the listeners here, it's not necessarily going to be Shohei at plus 200 to win this award. Or it's not necessarily going to be Aaron Judge at plus 450 if the Yankees win the World Series. This is not as square or as GOAT-worthy, I guess you could call it, an award as other sports. You can be a little cheeky. You can take some dogs. You can go after guys like Teoscar Hernandez that Jovan mentioned earlier, who are plus 2,700 to win this award. That guy who's had one hell of a year, and just because he's been a little cold recently, maybe we got a little bit of value on him. Or a guy like Tommy Edman, who maybe has been a little bit too hot at the plate personally for me to back, but you can get him at plus 3,000. It could be anybody on these given rosters, Jovan, and I feel like me going over some of those former winners, guys like Steve Pearce, proves that. It could be a Rando McGee.
Yeah, 100% could. And I'm staring at two guys because I'm obviously trying to pick a Yankee because I think the Yankees are going to win.
Right.
Two guys that stick out to me that are not Judge, Soto, Stanton.
What do you got?
I already mentioned what I think is the impending massive hit, potentially a grand slam coming from Jazz Chisholm, who's been a little cold throughout the playoffs. So I feel like his big moment comes in this series, and that's the whole reason they brought him here. And that will bring a massive boost to the team in general. So I would like Jazz Chisholm. The other guy who I haven't heard mentioned, maybe it's because, Soto's been great. Stanton's been on a legacy run. He won the MVP of the ALCS, but sneaky hitting 300 in the playoffs. How about Gleyber Torres from the leadoff spot, who has three multi-hit? He had three multi-hit games in the last 4 games of the ALCS against the Guardians. Like he's been
waiting for you to mention him. He's been good.
Yeah, he's been good. He's been a steady presence up there. So maybe he doesn't have like the big hit potential necessarily because the big hits most of the time, more often than not, come after him. But if he's able to put together a really good series against those arms, which I think is very, very possible, we could be looking at a great series at him. Maybe he's the guy that is going to stay hot and not the I think Stanton will have a good series too, but he's the obvious answer coming off of a really good series where he won the MVP there. So maybe it was always Gleyber. Guy's been getting shit on all season for his subpar play.
Yeah, plus 4,000 as well. Great value.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, Jovan, I already know who's winning this fucking award. And take everything I've already talked about, the role players and the blue collar guys and the dudes who are you wouldn't even expect to be in the fucking starting lineup and they end up winning the MVP. Take everything I just said about that and throw it out the fucking window. Let me keep this as simple as possible for you. Okay? If the Yankees win the World Series, which they are, unfortunately, this year, it's going to be because of Juan Soto. Let's not fucking overthink this shit. Okay? How did they get here in the first place? It's not a hard answer or question, excuse me. How'd they get here in the first place? Juan Soto. That's how they got here. Aaron Judge, he did one meaningful thing in the entire postseason. One. He had one meaningful home run. That's it. Didn't do shit else that mattered. They didn't need him to. Because when you have a guy like Juan Soto, you don't need Aaron Judge to produce. You don't. Juan Soto is a winner. If the Yankees win this World Series, which they're going to, he's going to win the MVP at plus 550. That is extremely disrespectful, having him be that long of odds, to be completely honest with you. He should be plus 220, not Shohei. He should at least be ahead of Aaron Judge. What has Aaron Judge done at the plate this entire postseason that makes you think he's going to fucking wake up and do his job and act like it's the regular season again? There's no fucking chance. And to be completely honest with you, all jokes aside, if they throw that guy any strikes, the Dodgers, they are batshit crazy. They are batshit crazy if they throw Aaron Judge anything close to the strike zone. Plain and simple. Juan Soto, they might have to pitch to him with the way Giancarlo Stanton's been hitting. You can't pitch around two guys. They might have to pitch at Soto. And I'll tell you right now, even if they don't, that guy's going to be up there dialed in and ready to hit anything he possibly fucking can. He's not going to be patient Soto up there. He's going to be Soto, man on a fucking mission looking for his second ring. And the louder it is in that damn Yankee Stadium, the more the fans boo him when he's on the road in LA, the more the Yankee fans get up and cheer and do the Juan Soto MVP chants and pay the man chants, the better that motherfucker plays. And there's not a lot of guys who are like that. When the lights are brightest, Juan Soto shows up. He's your World Series MVP. Plus 550. It's that easy, dude.
It might
really
be.
Is.
It just might be. I feel like
it really is.
The Yankees win. I feel like there's a couple different avenues, but they might all tie back to Soto. Like not that I'm going to bet this because like I don't think the Dodgers are going to win, nor do I really want to put coin on a plus 200 MVP. But like if the Dodgers win and Ohtani does something, literally anything, they're going to find every excuse in the world to give him that trophy. So like not that it's impossible, but the Dodgers,
the tie might go to Shohei. Yes,
the tie is always going to go to Shohei unless like Teoscar go ahead grand slam in game 6 or something. Right. It's going to take something massive for them to find a reason not to give to Shohei if the Dodgers win. But who knows? You got Tommy Edman coming off of NLCS MVP, so see if that holds.
Yeah, he's still got to get the hits. Right?
Yeah.
Like Shohei still has to show up and get the fucking hits and be clutch.
He does.
And do his job.
He does.
He still has to do it. And I'd be surprised if they gave him a lot of pitches to do it for. Why would you throw strikes to that guy? Jesus Christ.
I mean, it doesn't,
especially
it doesn't matter at this point, which is the crazy part.
Especially with how ghost mode Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman have gone in recent postseasons. Let's not act like they don't. They do. Those guys are some of the biggest frauds in all the land when it comes to postseason play. You know it. I know it. The listeners know it. Those guys disappear. Mookie Betts up there at the plate thinking about bowling a 300. Fucking freak. Lock in. Worry about your postseason. Okay, you're not on the Red Sox anymore. Lock the fuck in. Beat the Yankees. Okay? Those guys go ghost. Freddie Freeman is on one leg right now. What is he going to do? Maybe get a clutch hit. Certainly not enough juice to hit one over the fence. The guy can barely walk right now. Legitimately. Like, what's going to change over a week? The guy's a fossil right now. There's no way he's healing up. He doesn't have time to go over to Germany and get the CMC fucking juice in his leg to get, back up moving and grooving. He doesn't have time for that shit. Okay? Shohei's got to be the guy. When Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman once again go ghost mode, along with Aaron Judge as well, probably when the lights are bright, there's two guys who have ice in their fucking veins who were born for this shit, and it's Shohei and Juan Soto. Those are the two goats who are really playing in this fucking postseason.
Yeah, agreed.
Shohei at plus 220 is insane respect in an award like this that's been known to be given to guys like Ben Zobrist and Steve Pearce. That is crazy respect. Like Jovan said, if the Dodgers win the World Series, which they're not going to, but if they do, it's probably going to be given to Shohei, or if it's close, a tie is going to be given to Shohei for the MVP. It's better for the sport. It's not rocket science, right? Yeah. But we're not going to have to worry about that because unfortunately for me, Juan Soto is going to win another fucking World Series, but this time it's going to be in pinstripes. All right. Before we close this out, I'm going to ask you two things. Number one, because I've had a lot of Yankee fans legitimately ask me over the last couple of weeks, what are the Yankees about to do with Juan Soto? And I look him in the eyes. I say, are you a stupid fucking idiot? You know what he's going to do. They're going to pay the guy. That's why they've been bitching about this all year about having no coins because it's a sunk cost. You ever take an econ class? Sunk cost. It's already baked in. They're paying Soto this offseason. If they don't, then they're not the Yankees. Okay? This is the exact fucking team that does shit like this. They're not going to blink or think twice about it. Let's cut this shit. I know the Yankee fans, people listening to this podcast right now, I guarantee you we got a lot of Yankee fans listening right now. They're probably thinking the same thing. They're like, I want to talk myself into a scenario where Juan Soto doesn't get re-signed. What other fucking team is going to pay him? There's only a handful of teams that have the money to pay him anyways. It's not going to be the Dodgers who just got fucking Shohei. Who else even has the coins to do it? The Yankees might be the only other team in the fucking sport that can. Who else can afford them?
There's got to be some teams out there that can afford them. It's just
If you're the Yankees,
if you're the Yankees, it's blank check, and it's not even a question.
Whether they win or lose this World Series,
win or lose,
blank check. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
100%. And if
I'm tired of hearing,
I will laugh for years.
I mean, it'd be a big fuck up. How do you not pay that guy?
They will have just pissed away everything they built this year, and they will regret it for as long as that franchise stands. But he's going to be in pinstripes. I don't think there's really any debate on that.
Yep. Look, I've talked about it a lot this season. It just feels right. And that literally breaks me on the inside, saying those words outright, because that guy should have been a fucking national for his life, and we should have given him a blank check. But it wasn't right. Look at Juan Soto in a Yankee uniform, in pinstripes, grabbing his jock strap, staring down the fucking pitcher, probably murmuring some stuff in Spanish that I can't even repeat on this fucking podcast, and doing the Soto shuffle and being the most intimidating, craziest looking guy in the batter's box you've ever seen. That guy is bringing it home for the Yankees, but whether they do or not, he's getting his bag. He's done his job. He's proven enough. He's a fucking winner. Whether the Yankees get swept in this World Series or they sweep the Dodgers, which, by the way, both those things aren't happening. But what I'm trying to say is on both ends of the spectrum, he's getting paid. He's done his job. His work here is done. This is bonus time, okay? This is literally bonus time. He's going to get 10, 15 more chances to make a fucking run with this team. And it makes me sick. And I called this years ago. When he was still in the Nats, I called this. I said, he's going to finish his fucking career up in New York. You know why? Because they're going to get a chance with him on a free agent deal or on an old contract or something. They'll bring him in, and he's going to fall in love with playing up there so much. And it breaks my heart, but it happened. Just watch the guy play out there. He looks like he's in heaven. He's having the fucking time of his life. And he's bringing them a fucking World Series.
Yep.
God damn it. He's doing it. So beat. Let me ask you this. Any chance we see Shohei Ohtani pitch?
No. That would be malpractice.
0%
Absolute
chance.
malpractice.
0% Not one chance. World where their bullpen comes back down to earth. They get so scared and so sketched out every time they put in a guy in their bullpen. Juan Soto comes up and hits a nuke. What if they're in some weird scenario where in Game 7 they need one more inning? You're telling me you don't see a world where you see him get loose in the bullpen?
No. If Dave Roberts does that, Dave Roberts should be put in high security prison. He should be in San Quentin within the hour. That is unbelievably just not happening. But if it does, on the slight chance it does, Dave Roberts is a war criminal.
And should he be jailed because he's putting Shohei's long-term health at risk? Is it because it won't be effective anyways after he hasn't pitched in this long? What's the reason?
Everything. You don't put a guy at risk first time out there in the World Series. I mean, give me a break. Coming off of TJ, no. I mean, that's terrible outlook for his health. I'm sure, like if you're Shohei, maybe you say like, I feel good, I can pitch. But let's be realistic here. If that was even the slightest bit of possibility, he probably would have seen some innings before now. So on the off chance that does happen, everybody in the Dodgers organization that allows that should be fired and jailed and in solitary confinement for the rest of their lives.
Okay. Well, it's probably not going to happen, but Jovan doesn't think there's a single chance it does, and I kind of agree, but I wanted to poke the bear, or at least throw it out there and get people thinking. Stir the pot. He's not going to fucking pitch, especially with how good their bullpen has been. They don't need him. They have 10 other guys. Okay. Real quick, I want to go over our hot take for the World Series. Okay, I know I'll give you a second to think. I'll go over mine first, but I want you to go over, and it could be something you've already talked about, but a hot take you've got for this World Series, whether it's a player that people don't expect to show up, carrying a squad, or a guy hitting a crazy grand slam like you talked about with Jazz. Maybe you recycle that one. But give me some sort of hot take, something that people won't expect to happen in this postseason that you think does. And I'll go ahead and get it started. You can think about your option here. I already kind of hinted at mine as well, but I'm over here looking at X, searching Nestor Cortez, and I'm seeing videos of this guy saying all the right things. He's saying things like, I don't give a shit if my arm falls off my body. I have a year off arrest in a World Series ring. Yeah, I'm willing to go out there and fuck myself over in my future career, my future paychecks for a World Series. This guy, Nestor Cortez, gets it. And I'll tell you what, he's one of the only guys in the Yankees who I just don't absolutely fucking hate their guts. Nestor Cortez plays this game the right way. And guys like that get rewarded in the biggest moments. And I wouldn't be surprised, although a lot of people would be, that he's going to not only just be on the roster for the Yankees in the fucking World Series, but he's going to have an impactful performance coming out of this bullpen for the Yankees, and he's going to save them a game. It could only be for an inning and a half. Maybe it's 1.2 innings pitched. Maybe it's 1.1. Maybe it's only 4 outs, right? But he's going to have an impactful moment in this World Series when people don't even expect him to pitch. That's my hot take. Bold prediction. What do you got?
I mean, if he makes the roster, you could be locked in with that, Krabs.
I mean, yeah, that's a plus 1,000 take because he might not even make the roster, but I'm thinking he will.
We'll find out.
Thinking he will.
I guess you took the pitching, so I'll take the offense. I think a series-changing hit for the Yankees will come not from Soto, not from Judge, not from Stanton, but it'll come between 2 guys, Jazz Chisholm and Anthony Volpe. I think that's where you're going to see. Maybe it's the grand slam that I feel like I've already seen. Maybe it's Volpe. I don't know. He's been a demon on the base pass. We didn't touch on that, but the most stolen bases market, Volpe kind of looking at me funny, but I feel like he's going to be a part of a really big moment. When you think about the biggest moments, they've really been from the top of the lineup. I feel like the middle of that lineup is going to be the ones that make something shake in the series.
Well, it's going to have to be if the Yankees want to win this World Series, probably, considering the fact that they might not even pitch to the Yankees' meat of the order. Although they're going to have to pitch to one of them. You can't just walk the fucking bases loaded every inning when the top of the order comes up. They're going to have to pitch to one of them. Maybe not 2, maybe not 3, but one of them. See how it plays out. But they're going to need another role player, a Volpe, a Jazz, somebody else besides one of the 3 goats on that offense. They're going to need one of them to step up. They will. I think that's a great take. Love it. All right. Well, as much as I hate to say it, the Yankees are winning the World Series, and I'm predicting a Game 7 victory in one of the craziest World Series we've seen in years. The Yankees pull it off. The curse is over. They win for the first time. They do their job in 14, 15 years, and the Yankees win in Game 7. They win 4-3. Jovan, how are you seeing this World Series go down?
Pretty similar. I think they get out to a hot start in Game 1. I think the Dodgers maybe claw back for a couple, and then the Yankees offense just overpowers that pitching staff, especially when you start seeing the starters second time around. And I think we probably get a Game 7. So same page, Yankees in 7.
I want to put a bonus hot take in here. I think the Dodgers bullpen will cost the Dodgers not 1, but 2 games in this series. And nobody who has a brain that functions is thinking that right now. But I'm telling you right now, that Dodgers bullpen that's been high and mighty, damn near invincible, hasn't made a single fucking mistake this entire postseason. They're going to give up a run when they can't afford it twice in this series.
You know what I think people will agree with you on something too. That maybe it's Dave Roberts who makes the mistake, which he's been very, very known to do. Maybe he
Dave Roberts
at some point.
Dave Roberts, who pretty much has solidified himself as, staying the manager at this point, just getting to the World Series with his team when nobody expected it this season. Could not agree more with that take, Jovan. Dave Roberts, a guy who's clicked all the right buttons so far this postseason. But what is Dave Roberts known for? Legitimately, he's known for clicking the wrong buttons. When it comes to his bullpen in big games, I could so see him making the wrong call, pulling a guy too early, leaving a guy out there too late, a.k.a. fucking his team over and being a shit manager that he is. Plain and simple. He got lucky one time and got a ring because his team was that good. If he was a good manager, he would take the greatest fucking roster ever assembled to more than 1 World Series. Give me a break. Give me a break. This guy stinks. He's pushed all the right buttons so far this postseason. Can we expect that to last? Fuck no. Fade it. Bet the Yankees to win this postseason. they're getting 2 crazy comebacks against the Dodgers bullpen when nobody expects it.
Sure.
Any other hot takes before we close this puppy out?
I think both teams have one game where they scored double-digit runs in. Maybe that's a hot take. Maybe not. I guess we've probably seen that in World Series past, but I feel like there's going to be one game for both these teams where they absolutely light up each other's pitching staff.
You think it could be in the same game, or you think it'll be at different games?
Could be in the same game. That would be crazy if we got a 20-run game, but it's probably in different games because I would assume, just like the Dodgers, I guess, the Flaherty started against the Mets where they just kind of threw out whatever arm they could afford to. Like, it's probably going to be one of those games if the starter gets lit up pretty early for both sides. So that's what I'm in on.
All right. Well, Friday night, when they hit the fucking fields, we've got the Yankees winning game 1. We like the over in game 1 on Friday. We like the Yankees to win the World Series, and some other crazy takes that I'm not even going to spend time on wasting. They can go back and re-listen to it if they want to. Some crazy things were set. Dodgers bullpen blowing 2 games with how good they've been. That's a crazy comment from me. It's so crazy it just might work. Okay, this is postseason baseball. To all the listeners out there who maybe aren't as tapped into the baseball scene, crazy shit happens. And against 2 of these wagon organizations, 2 of the best organizations in baseball, wouldn't it be something if some of the craziest shit of all time happens between these 2 GOAT squads? Almost meant to be. I think we're due for a good one. And unfortunately for me, I think it's the Yankees who get it done. Shit. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this podcast. Like I said earlier, make sure you guys drop a follow, have the notice turned on for the Bookit Sports Podcast Network on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you guys listen to your podcast. Drop a like on YouTube as well. If you're watching over there, looking at our beautiful faces, talking about the World Series, drop a like and let me know in the comments, who is your World Series champion? To all the listeners out there, let me know in the comments on YouTube. Is it the Yankees or is it the Dodgers? Who's it going to be? I'll have a pretty hefty future on the Yankees to win the World Series myself. I'll let you guys know right now, at least 2 units, $500. They get it done. They get it done. Emotional hedge for me. That way, when they win it, I won't feel as shitty with Juan Soto doing it in pinstripes. At least I'll be $1,000 richer. Okay? W's.
Sure.
Appreciate you guys listening. Again, follow if you're not already. Drop a like on the YouTube video, and we'll catch you guys on the next podcast. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the World Series. We'll be.